Hey there, mystery lovers. Welcome to Unknown Horizon, where we unravel the secrets hidden in the shadows and dive deep into the unknown. I'm Ian Cartwell, your guide on this thrilling journey through unsolved cases, eerie legends, and mind-bending mysteries. Each week we'll explore a different enigma, whether it's a chilling true crime story, a haunting urban legend, or a puzzling historical event. So grab your magnifying glass, turn down the lights, and let's embark on a quest for the truth. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and join our community of curious minds. Together, we'll seek the answers to questions that keep us up at night. Let's begin. Deception's Edge. The sun was setting over the vast ocean, casting shades of orange and purple across the sky. The small private island of Isla Serena sat serenely in the middle of nowhere, its crystal-clear waters surrounding it like an untouched paradise. But for the group of people arriving by boat, it wasn't just a getaway. It was the wedding of the century. Elena Vasquez, a young, fiery Latina from a modest background, was about to marry one of the wealthiest bachelors in the world, Daniel Belmont. The Belmont family, with their old money and impeccable reputation, were New England royalty, and this wedding was going to be perfect. At least, that's what everyone was hoping for. Elena had always been the underdog, the girl no one thought would ever climb into high society. But she met Daniel in the most unexpected way, on a crowded train in Manhattan, where she had accidentally spilled coffee on him. One thing led to another, and now, 2 years later, she was about to marry into one of the most powerful families in America. The Belmont family estate on Isla Serena was reserved exclusively for the wedding. Daniel's family was cold but civil toward Elena, seeing her as an outsider, a trophy for their perfect son. His mother, Victoria Belmont, had her doubts. She had never liked Elena. She'd even hired a private investigator to dig into her past, looking for anything that might prove this wedding was a mistake. But the secrets weren't only Elena's. As the wedding week began, the island's pristine beauty hid a growing tension. Elena's best friend Riley, her ride or die since childhood, was suspicious. She had seen things Elena hadn't. Daniel was too charming, too perfect. And then there were his friends, the entitled, arrogant inner circle, who had always looked down on Elena, making snide comments behind her back. Most of them were old-money socialites, including Daniel's best man, Eric Hawthorne, a smooth-talking lawyer who always seemed just a little too close to Daniel. On the surface, everything was glamorous. The bridal parties, the expensive champagne flowing freely, the dazzling sunsets. But beneath the laughter, something darker simmered. There were hushed conversations, stolen glances, and whispered secrets lurking in every shadow. The first night on the island, as everyone gathered for a lavish dinner, Riley noticed something strange. Eric and Daniel disappeared for a private conversation, their faces tense when they thought no one was watching. Later, Elena found Daniel's phone buzzing non-stop with texts from an unknown number. He brushed it off, saying it was just work stuff, but there was something about his smile that felt wrong. Things escalated when one of Daniel's old flames, the glamorous but venomous Madison Carlyle, arrived unannounced. She was a fashion model, and the kind of woman who could make any room stop with her presence. But it wasn't just her beauty that turned heads. It was the way she looked at Daniel. The two shared a history, and although Daniel claimed it was ancient, the chemistry between them was undeniable. Elena's insecurities started bubbling to the surface. Madison made snide remarks, always just subtle enough to pass as playful banter. But the message was clear. She wasn't over Daniel, and she wasn't leaving without a fight. By the third day on the island, the tension was suffocating. That evening, the rehearsal dinner took place under the stars, surrounded by fairy lights and clinking glasses. Everything seemed perfect. Until it wasn't. Riley had overheard a conversation between Eric and Daniel, one that made her stomach drop. They were hiding something big. Elena, always trusting, waved off Riley's concerns. She didn't want to believe that the man she was about to marry, the man who had swept her off her feet, could be hiding anything from her. But the nagging doubts grew louder with each passing hour. That night, when Daniel slipped out of bed for what he claimed was a late-night swim, Elena decided to follow him. She crept through the shadowy palm trees, her heart pounding, feeling like a fool for even thinking Daniel could betray her. But then she saw him. By the dock, talking with Madison. Their voices were low, but the conversation was intense. Elena froze as she heard Madison say, "You don't have to go through with this. We can still stop it." Daniel's reply chilled her to the bone. "It's too late. I've already made my decision. Besides, you know what's at stake here. This isn't just about us. It's about the money, the legacy." Elena's breath caught in her throat. The money? What did he mean? Her mind raced. She stepped closer, hidden behind the trees, trying to make sense of what she was hearing. Madison continued, her voice low but sharp. "You can't marry her, Daniel. You don't love her. This is all for show. For your family, for the press. She's just a pawn in all this. The world spun around Elena." A pawn? Was that all she was to him? She felt her heart shatter as Daniel remained silent, his head hung low, as though he couldn't even argue. Tears filled her eyes and she turned away, running back to the villa, her head pounding. Everything she thought was real, everything she believed about their relationship, was a lie. Daniel was using her. But for what? And how deep did the deception go? The next morning, the island was quiet, as though nature itself was holding its breath. Elena confided in Riley, who didn't look surprised. "I knew something was off about him," Riley said. "But this is beyond what I thought." Determined to find out the truth, Elena began digging. She hacked into Daniel's computer, using the knowledge she had picked up from her days working in IT before they met. And what she found was worse than she could have ever imagined. Daniel's family was bankrupt. The Belmonts were drowning in debt, and the only way to save their fortune was through a merger. A merger that hinged on Daniel marrying into another wealthy family. Elena wasn't wealthy, but what she didn't know was that her family's land, inherited from her grandparents, was worth millions. The Belmonts had discovered this through their connections, and they had set their sights on Elena, manipulating her into the relationship. Elena's head spun with rage and betrayal. It wasn't just about the money. Daniel had deceived her, played her for a fool. She wasn't just some girl in love. She was a tool, a piece of a larger game that she never even knew she was playing. But the game wasn't over. On the day of the wedding, the guests gathered in the lavish garden, the sun shining as though nothing could go wrong. But Elena had a plan. She walked down the aisle with her head held high, her heart pounding with every step. Daniel smiled at her, that same charming smile he had used to lure her in. As the officiant began to speak, Elena turned to the crowd. "Before we start, I have something to say." The guests murmured, confused. Daniel's smile faltered. Elena looked directly at him, her voice steady, though her heart was racing. "Daniel, you once told me that love was the most important thing, but I've learned something more important than love, truth." She pulled a folder from behind her bouquet and tossed it at his feet. "That's the truth. Everything you've been hiding, about your family, your debts, and how you never loved me." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Daniel's face went pale as he picked up the folder, flipping through the pages his worst fears realized. "You wanted my family's land, Daniel," Elena said, her voice cold. "But you're not getting it. And you're not getting me." With that, she turned and walked away, her heart pounding with triumph as Daniel stood frozen, his perfect world crumbling around him. The guests were speechless. The Belmont legacy, the wedding of the century, all of it had been shattered in a single moment of truth. As Elena walked away from the ceremony, Riley caught up with her. "You did it," she whispered, a proud smile on her face. Elena nodded, but there was no joy in her victory, just a hollow feeling of survival. She had won this game, but at what cost? The love she thought she had found was gone, replaced by the bitter truth. But she was free, and that, in the end, was worth everything.